Sure. And we can go live.
Statements response. You can it's there. They have no authority to use it. That's what we need to do. With this authority to use it. AG first, right? No. AGS first. The umbrella.
All right, Mr. Chairman, do you want to start us back?
You bet, please. We are back. It's 1 o'clock on the nose. And I think, Madam Co-Chair, the first thing we're going to do is try to walk through all the technical corrections. Is that right, Don? So you want to please proceed?
And Mr. Chairman, for clarity, I think we're going to walk through some of the recommendations from LSO provided to us just this morning as we walk through the budget bill, those technical corrections that have been identified as needing to be made.
Mr. Chairman, please.
Procedurally, then, would you prefer us to, because we just went through them, would it, or we going to do them in blocks, wait till he gets through and vote on all of them? How would you like us to proceed? What's the easiest?
So I think it'll be faster just to do them one at a time, because you only got about 15 or 20, right?
Less than 15.
Yeah.
Okay,
So let's
thank
just,
you.
yeah. Just go ahead and we'll see how it goes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, our first request for action appears on page 8 in the Secretary of State's office. Specifically line 24, JAC approved this footnote. You did not approve the amount of $90,000.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the amount, $90,000.
Second?
Moving second, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, can we relate this to the control row? I don't have the bill in front of me.
so,
And
so Senator Anderson, this is not on the list. This is just new issues that were identified to us by LSO today. And so there's no list. We're just walking
Oh,
on these particular ones.
okay.
But
Thank
when
you.
we go to the list, we will definitely identify them. Thank you. Don?
The second one appears on page 11 of the bill, line 21. And for those online, this does relate to control item number 20 on your list. I'm not asking for any action. I think Representative Stiff said the current language meets the expectation of the original proposer. It's not to say it might be.
Mr. Chairman, yes, that's correct.
The next item that we would like to bring to your consideration is an in-block motion. The first appearance of that appears on page 14. This agency 55, all had erroneous agency fund rather than SR fund. So with this motion, we would clean up all of the erroneous fund.
So moved.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 The next item for your consideration is on page 17. Line 22, we need to move $400,000 general fund down to line 26. We just put it in the wrong line.
Your motion.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries.
And for those looking on your sheet, that is control number 38. Good. The next one for your consideration is on page 33. Line 5.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
And we had conversation this morning about moving the footnote 1 on page 20. Or did I?
Yes, that wasn't our request, but I did say the footnote doesn't have any real effect or meaning, and if you wanted to remove it, that would be appropriate. So
To delete.
Yeah.
So is there a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor to delete footnote 1? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That
Aye.
motion carries.
just for clarification, that's footnote 1 in agency 23 on the bottom of page 20.
Next is 33.
The next is on page 33. This is already in the bill, line 5. This is the SFP funding. Staff took it upon ourselves to correct that number on line 5, and we decreased it by $636,984.
Is there a motion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries.
Page 49, we're not asking for a motion here, but I want to bring to your attention what I said during the presentation. Arguably, there is $2.7 million for inflation for medical services here, and there is a similar amount of one. You have a number?
So I think the motion was to remove one of them, correct?
Because the one's a known cost and the other one's for other inflation.
Mr. Richards?
We're not asking for a motion on this. We're just bringing it to your attention that it's an oddity that the department asked for an increase in medical services of 2.7 million, which was approved. And there was a increase of $1,621,073 on line 21, top of page 2 of, well, on control number 21 on your sheet, for enterprise inflation as well. We're not asking that it be removed, but we're just bringing it to your attention.
So the question is,
If you want to remove it, you can.
but the question is this 1.6 included as part? Are they doing the same thing or at least part of it?
They were both requests for increase in medical inflation.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead. How we received the request was different. One through the agency and their budget request, the other as part of the overall inflation. So if we just stick with what we passed for the agency, the funds in the inflation will still go for inflation, and they'll have the potential of addressing whatever inflation they need. Probably won't need to do this because we've addressed it in their agency budget. Is that fair?
Mr. Chairman, that's fair.
So Kevin,
Mr. Chairman, as I understand it, what Representative Larson said is the $1.6 million that appears to be duplicative would remain, but there'd be flexibility to address inflationary issues with that 1.6 million.
okay, is there any motions? If not, please proceed.
Page 55, line 26, branch-wide resources on the Supreme Court. This did not include other funds for their compensation requests, and it is in the amount of $185,640. This is new money that has not been voted on previously. It is all SR, meaning special revenue, not general funds.
And is that on the, this sheet? It's not. So do we have a motion?
Move to include the 185,000 and change as stated of SR funds on line 26, page 55.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries.
Page 84, 85, and 86. Yes, this is a choice of the committee as to whether or not to make the transfers for savings and to the water account effective immediate, or increasing the tip cap to the LSRA, the policy choice, or nothing. And if you do nothing, you'll still have $94 million, but part of it'll be in this biennium and part of it'll be in the next biennium. And it will look weird because one biennium could very well be negative.
Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Mr. Chairman, I would make the motion that we make subsection D, E, J, and M effective immediately.
Second.
Okay, for discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries.
The next item is on page 88. We would ask for authority. Oh, sorry, page 80. Page 92, yes. H, to create effective immediate. Excuse me, let me be more careful with my words. Page 92, the request is to make section 303 in its entirety effective immediate.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
for clarity on my printed copy, it's page 88. Section 303.
The new language would actually appear at the bottom of page 92 at the end of the section.
Wait, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, to clarify, I thought I understood when I was going through that it would require a new subsection H after G. So that's what we're saying here. Okay,
Right, we're
thank you.
creating it. Everyone understand the motion? All those in favor say aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? That motion carries.
And for those using the sheet, that was control number 41. The next one appears on page 103. And this would authorize up to $13 million carryover from the 21-22 biennium. And that part of the motion, I think, is a technical correction that we did not include.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
That motion carries. Now go ahead, Don.
There's a second piece of this which you may wish to wait on. Or you could do it right now, and that is designated only for the Wyoming State Hospital demolition account. That's more policy than, we missed the 13 million, and you have addressed that. Now, where that money goes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we've been having this conversation on, this is reversion money from the 21-22 biennium that we had over the course of this interim have thought we could put into that demolition account, but it needed to be, we needed to have this language to do it. So the intent from the legislative part of it was to always put that in addition to any other reversions they have in that account, but to make that 12.5, 13 million, whatever that amount is going to be, into the demolition account. And that's been the conversation. That would be my motion.
Moving second. Any
Mr. Chair?
discussion?
Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman. I guess I just want to explore sort of the pros and cons between earmarking it for demo or giving the agency flexibility to say, what is the greatest need? Is it staffing? Is it the Title 25? And then to use this list that we've already discussed, again, page 103, I, 2, 3, 4, and let the agency prioritize that 13 million. Thank you.
And I think that that really is a fair question in the I Roman 1, 2, and 3, and 4 really are referring to the reversions that they have in this current biennium. And that was their priorities for these reversions, that up to 15 million could go into the demo, the unanticipated Medicaid, Title 25. We don't mess with that. This is going back the previous biennium, that for those funds that had remained there stranded, we were going to move them in to further fund that demolition.
Okay, further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? That motion carries. Don, next,
Chairman,
please go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, while we're in this neighborhood, could I bring a motion based on a staff comment earlier in the morning?
Sure.
And that would take us right back to page 100 at the top. There's line 8, $6,097,947,000 to make that amount increase the amount on page 84, line 16, subsection C there by that 6,097,000. It's just on page 84, we're making the transfer from general fund to SIPA to fund these projects. By having this in a two-piecer on page 100, it makes it confusing. And so this just corrects that. And this is what the staff had pointed out this morning, that it would be simpler if we did that. So that's my motion to increase on page 84, subsection C by 6,097,947.
And then what does that? do
Second.
to- What does that do to section 308 on page 100?
It eliminates it.
Right, that's my understanding. I just want to clarify.
Mr. Richards, if you could explain Representative Walter's motion.
I think it is a two-step proposal. The first is to move on page 100, line 8, 6,097,947 from the general fund to SIPA on line 9, and then make a like amount of transfer increase on page 84, line 18, increase the 168 million by $6,097,947.
And the net accomplishment is what?
There is no new money being associated with this. It is major maintenance will be paid out of SIPA funds, and that's just clean things up.
Because everyone stand. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carried. And I had that flag too, so. Next, Don.
The next item, I believe, appears on page 114. And we would clean up the language so it will not look this way, but to add the words "and" paragraph 12 in line 18.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carried.
The next item appears on page 118. Line 20. For clarity only, after the words "up to," add "an additional."
Okay, everyone stand the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries.
Page 127. Subsection B and C, because there's conforming language, remove reference to judicial branch. The first appearance appears on page 127, line 21, and there is conforming on line 26 and page 128, line 2.
Everyone understand the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Don, I have a question while we're on that page. On the 125, where we removed the Old Stony language. So my question is, what does that do if we still want to do the Old Stony project?
It works.
Does it work? Well, but my question is it prioritized by not mentioning it? And could the money end up going someplace else?
The money could end up going someplace else. The language in subsection B or subsection A, excuse me, there was an attempt to provide funds for only former school facilities, which Old Stony was, which had received a business council grant previously, which it did. So it was an attempt without specifying, because you get in other concerns related to special legislation. It was an attempt to designate without eliminating competition from other potential projects.
So my understanding of reading this is now it makes it even harder to make this fit the Old Stony project.
Mr. Chairman, I think
Broadens the door.
I apologize if I left that impression. It actually narrows it
Okay.
because it's taking the money from subsection A, which was a more narrow or a more broad approach, and designating it for this more narrow approach. There may be some other schools. I've heard, conversations about a pool in northern Wyoming and something in central Wyoming that may also qualify for this. But it is more narrow, not more broad.
Okay. Okay. Please proceed.
We only have one left, and it is not a staff note. It does not need to be changed. However, the committee raised a question as to whether we could repeal the CWC capital construction appropriation for $10.3 million in the text of the budget bill rather than in the text of the capital construction bill. I think it's fair to say legal staff have concerns about this as it was used for capital construction. Having said that, if the committee desires to do that, we did bring it up in our discussion. I think Tamara and Brian are online. They would be more equipped to respond to that.
That's okay. Mr. Chairman,
If there's not a motion, we don't.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So was that the last one, Don? So I had on my notes on page 134 on that employer contribution to retirement that we could change that 5 million down to 4 million.
Or 4.2 or what was it?
They required 3.8. And so maybe have that at 4 million rather than 5 million.
Second.
Is that correct, Don?
Mr. Chairman, it was. It wasn't an error on our
Yeah.
part,
It
but
was
yes,
because it was a swag to start with.
we have the specific amount. Polly, would you please state that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the amount that's in Senate File 67 for the bill that increases the retirement contributions is $3,483,000. So it is less than the 4 million. Now, if you wanted to, just provide for that 0.25% increase for fiscal year 25 and the 0.5% increase for 26, that's the cost for the general fund.
You wanna make that motion?
So to clarify, not only would you change the appropriation, you would change the percentage.
Okay,
So I'd make that motion.
so moved.
So moved.
Any discussion?
To what number? To 3.5?
3,000,
3 million.
3 point, yeah.
Make it 3.5 million and corresponding adjustments
Let's
to the
just use the
percentage.
exact number.
Mr. Chairman, the exact number in Senate File 67 is $3,483,000.
Very good.
Okay. With that number, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carried.
No,
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Don, from yours?
No, thank
Okay.
you for your indulgence.
Now we're going to turn to the list. Everyone got the list in front of them?
Okay, senators, we're moving to the list.
On the list.
Don, you want to work us through the list? Just explain it. You'll be faster.
Appropriation is
Mr.
effective
Chairman,
on-
yeah,
Got to slow down.
Okay. I believe the motion is to, on the bottom of page 6, beginning on line 26, delete the sentence that begins $10 million throughout the top of page 7 until July 1, 2025. Delete that sentence.
And so, go ahead.
So we had a governor's letter on WIP. We reduced it by half. And in that, in his original letter, it was make half of, make 20 million year 1, 10 million year 2. We cut it in half and maintained the same idea. And so we had 15 and 5 in vision with the governor's office. They says that's fine, but could we just make it all effective immediately instead of in 2 years?
It's 10 and 5, not
Yeah.
15 and 5.
Mr. Co-Chairman, just real quickly to explain this proposed amendment. There's not a new appropriation here than what's already currently in the budget bill. All the governor's office has requested this amendment to accomplish is to allow for the immediate appropriation of the total appropriation of 15 million to occur immediately rather than in the 2 tranches of 10 and 5. Not a new appropriation, just changing how and when they receive that money.
Okay, everyone understand? Moved and
yes,
seconded, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 You still have your hand up, Clark?
Thank you for
No.
voting.
Okay,
I was just voting.
that's an aye vote. Okay, all those opposed? That motion carries. Okay, let's go to the next one, Don.
The next one is control number 20.
We did that.
No, we have not. He just.
Sorry,
talked about it.
24.
Yeah. Well,
So we did do 20, now it's your 24.
no, we have a draft amendment for 20.
I think we disclosed.
I thought we voted on it.
Clark's clarification that
Okay.
does say Saturdays. So we're on your amendment, 24.
Okay, number 24.
Yes, yes. So number 20 is Representative Stith's clarification
Right, right.
that the Capitol is to be open all Saturdays, and that was his intention, which I think we've covered.
Okay.
Number
now-
20.
now-
Representative
Co-Chair.
Co-Chairman Nicholas, I think we're on your proposal.
And thank you. And so committee, this was brought to us by our friends who basically, Wendy and Rihanna, who operate the implementation of the legislative's desire to have this open. And what they suggested was it would be better if we modified the language as it's written, handwritten on the, or typed up on the sheet, which is insert for Saturdays and extended weekday hours during the summer and for special events. So that's the motion.
Second,
Okay, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Those opposed?
No,
That motion carries. Next is,
Representative Walters.
And with the sponsor's approval, this one actually has more involved language. So if he's accepted, we'll post that on the monitor. Yes.
And so the issue on this is pretty simple. The Game and Fish has different restrictions on how they use their dollars and control it. And they informed us that the current language was overly restricted to their Pittman Robertson dollars, right?
So I think it would be helpful, committee members and Representative Walters, who has a number, when you see yourself come up next on the list that we have,
Get ready.
if you would make the motion for the proposed amendment and explain your motion, just like we would any other amendment or motion, and then it's clear, of course, the language is being provided up here, but perhaps Representative Walters, if you'd make the motion and explain how it came to your attention.
Happy to. Hadn't been given the opportunity, Madam Chair, so happy to make the motion. So I would move the proposed language that everyone sees on the screen currently. And with a second, I would then
Second.
explain it. Thank you. And so what this does is, as there was some concern that the Game and Fish is required to have control over all of their funds, or they potentially lose some of their federal funding or their funds that come to them from the federal side from the sale of firearms and whatnot. So what this amendment does is, rather than directly appropriate Game and Fish funds, $1 million for predator management, this gives a strong encouragement that they put money, $1 million, towards this program, but it is not a mandate that they do so.
So Representative Walters, was this at a request from the Game and Fish Department?
Madam Chairman, this is a request from the Game and Fish Department, and have worked with them on this language.
And there's not a new appropriation?
Not a new appropriation, Madam Chair.
Any further questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carried. Next.
I believe the next one appears on page 76 and 77. And it might be combined with the following one. So this is control numbers 3 and 5. They are similar concepts. There's a request from the executive branch for an opportunity to authorize a temporary FTE in light of a potential turnover in this agency, and access to their special revenue to fund that temporary position, or to double fund temporary position or positions for their executive team in the Wyoming Gaming Commission.
And so, committee, I think we ought to skip this one, because we have an email from the director of the Gaming Commission that we can circulate so everyone can see it. Tom, are you ready? Have you seen it? So, yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, we'll come back to you.
Okay, so we are now on control row number 5. Agency number 38, or I'm sorry, 6, agency number 39. Co-Chairman Nicholas, do you want to make this motion?
Go ahead.
Madam Chairman, I'd make the motion, and this is regarding the spraying of invasive species, where we required a 1 to 3 match for each individual project. The director for the department, WWNRT, has come back and said in some counties that's going to be hard to do, but overall statewide for the entire appropriation, that's more than possible. And so I would make the motion that we change the language to say that not less than $15 million from any non-state source crossed all approved grants or expenditures for this appropriation. So in other words, the 5 will generate 15 for the total appropriation, but not per individual projects.
Second.
So Mr. Co-Chairman, Representative Larson, is there a new appropriation in this amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I apologize. No, there's no new appropriation. This is just the matching requirements for the appropriated funds.
Question? All those in favor say aye.
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 That motion carries. Next, Don?
The next one is in agency 48. We do not have draft language. You may want to skip this.
I don't believe there is a motion from a committee member. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That is correct.
All right, 49.
Yes, agency 49 and 57. This appears on page 33 of the budget, along with page 37 of the budget. And I believe we have some draft language for this as well.
Can we show that on screen?
Which one are we on, please?
E-kids.
E-kids.
We're on
Madam
control
Chair?
row
ahead.
18, agency 49.
Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move to change this footnote here. And really what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the agency's original request of 1.3 million and change to remain in DFS and not be moved to the Community College Commission just yet. And then in the footnote, it will ask that they start the transition process of moving the eKids program over to Community College Commission so that it can become incorporated within the SLEDS program that the Community College Commission administers. If we do this immediately as originally proposed, we will lose out on quite a bit of data, probably a year's worth or more, because they are not ready to make the transition. So this allows them to continue doing the program, working the system, while also beginning the process and setting it up to transition. So that's the proposed amendment.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? That motion carried. Next, Don?
The next item for your consideration appears on page 39, line 18. And this was interest expressed by the executive branch. You denied the governor's letter that moved $4 million out of the business council and to the MRG program. The interest here is whether or not you wanted another funding source for that.
Mr. Chairman.
Please, Representative Wilkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move $4 million from the business council to the MRG program
And
as
second for
stated in the
discussion.
governor's letter.
So that complies with his governor's rec? Good, so it does. All those in favor say aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
and that's no new money. That's previous appropriation from the mineral in. We're taking it out of BRC back to the MRG, being no new money.
Any questions from the Senate on this?
Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
That motion carried. Next, Don?
The next item for your consideration is on page 42, footnote 2. I believe this is a Walters amendment. We do Representative Walters amendment. We do have some proposed language on this.
Representative Wilkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is in footnote 2 on page 42. This is in regards to the $2.5 million for AI. And I would move to amend that. Currently, it says it will be matched 1-to-1 from UW funds. And my motion then is to change that UW funds to any persons, and will define persons as being individuals, partnerships, corporations, joint stock companies, or any other association or entity excluding public entities. And if I get a second, I'll explain.
Please explain.
Second.
So with this, the president had noted that he had letters of support from multiple corporations that wanted to do this. And so this basically allows them to go out and generate those funds from those corporations for the AI initiative. And had we used it from other UW sources, then we'd be getting into using tuition and fees to make this match. And it's just a little bit clunky. So this is probably a better approach. This is a better approach.
Any
Question.
questions? Go ahead. Senator Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the bringer of the motion, then, if you're going to do it that way, wouldn't it be prudent if we're asking for the matching dollars, so they say they've got them, would it be prudent then to do, or would it be a friendly amendment, I guess is what I'm asking, to make the 2.5 million ongoing instead of one time?
Mr. Chairman, I think that we should leave it one time because if it's ongoing, then we're guaranteeing that we're basically saying the companies have to keep their funding ongoing. So I think once we know if they can match it in the future, we can make it ongoing. I think we're premature to make it ongoing at this point.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm tracking. So they've said in further communications that they can get those, but I just wonder if that would have a chilling effect on the ask from the corporations if they didn't know this money was going to be there the next year. I don't know. But I'm hearing, if you think it's premature, then I'll go with that. But I just wanted to make sure I had it correct. Or
It's not
had it.
friendly. It's not friendly.
Nope.
Back on the motion.
Back on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
That motion passed. Next on.
The next item is on page 45, the bulk of which is on page 46. Representative Walters has an amendment on the 12 million matching funds, no new money, and I believe we have proposed language.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move the proposed language that'll be up on the screen shortly. But what this is, Mr. Chairman, again, no new money. It's the same 12 million for matching that we had before. I made a mistake in the motion and not really tracking the way the university had made the request. And so what this does, it puts 10 million of it into an endowment mechanism and 2 million to be a little bit more readily expendable. All still with the one-to-one match requirements and whatnot. Again, no new money. Worked with the university to try and clarify this to meet their needs and demands. And so it was clarifying the conceptual emotion I had made and getting it right.
Okay, everyone understand the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carried. Next on.
This is withdrawn. Kinsky's.
Which one is it?
Kinsky's, which is Agency 70. So now we're on Agency 77,
77.
row 12.
I've got that stricken from mine. So next one, Don.
Row 19, this is a Representative Larson amendment. This appears on page 849 of the budget under Field Services, line 26. I believe the request is for $250,000 increase in general funds.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So if this would increase compensation back to county jails from $70 to $90. And if I can get a second, I'll go ahead and explain.
Second.
So, Mr. Chairman, the Department of Corrections enters into agreements with county jails to help provide intermediate and regular jail sanctions in their county jails. I think there's 4 counties, Johnson, Lincoln, Uintah, and I forget the 4th one, that participate in this. And when this program was started, there is an agreement that they would pay them $70 a day per inmate being housed there. But once they became PREA certified, they would raise that to $90 a day. All of the counties are now PREA certified, and this would be the appropriation to allow the Department of Corrections to compensate them as they agreed upon earlier. And then if we approve this, it would be ongoing in this section 215 of their Field Services Division.
Any questions for the bringer? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Those opposed? That motion carries.
The next motion, I believe, is item number 26. This is also Representative Larson. It would appear on page 69 of the bill, line 23. And I believe the number has changed this morning.
It has. And so, Mr. Chairman, I like the last motion I made where the Department of Corrections had contacted me. The Superintendent of Public Instruction contacted us after we left last time, and upon in in their agency, they've got two positions that there's a lot of pressure in losing a couple of key positions. Pressure from local school boards that are offering more money. And then they're working them like a borrowed mule. They need some extra help in there. And the good superintendent had anticipated getting through this biennium and see if they could not resolve that. She's concerned that they will not be able to keep those people on staff, and that they are not able, even if they do, they're not able to keep them there. This request is to provide one new FTE with the associated funding, and then in addition to some additional funding to increase the compensation packages for the I want to say senior fiscal, and I forget the two positions. The total amount is $293,476. $476, and that would be ongoing.
So I have a question on the motion. And the question is to you, Kevin, because in some of the correspondence that we saw, apparently for these two employees who are, that they have had to request for reclassifying them. It's been sitting around for, they say, 3 or 4 months, a couple months. And I sent Director Bach an email to ask her about it. But my question is, if we provide additional dollars for these positions, then how does that impact the pay scales? How do you incorporate that into their classification? How does it work?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure that I understand the question, but let me see if I can rephrase it. The motion is to add money to the Department of Education for 2 positions, a funding amount. If you would like to consider saying X amount of money subject to the reclassification of A&I. You've seen that language before in some of the things that we did earlier in the session. That way, A&I would have the opportunity to go through that process and see what the reclassification would be, rather than simply appropriating an X dollar amount to each one of these positions. So provide X amount of funding subject to A&I's reclassification.
Question? Question? So in your motion, the numbers that you came up with, Representative Larson, do you know how those were derived?
My understanding from the superintendent was the new full-time position, which I believe is at 260, was based on A&I structure of what that position consisted of. So that would be annual salary and benefits for 2 years. Then the increase, the 33,000, is divided between those 2 positions for wage increase. And my understanding is that was based on what they anticipated through the process that the adjustment would be.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No.
Show of hands. All those in favor, raise their hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. That motion passes.
We finally have one.
Okay,
So Mr. Chairman, if I can, what's the
ahead.
total estimated appropriation for that? That was $290,000 ongoing.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, next on.
I believe the next one is the chairman's amendment, control number 25.
Bob McLaurin.
Okay, so that's me. But you want to take the helm? It's on. second
Next
to the back
page, 25,
Next
control
page.
roll 25.
So while we do not have language for this, our suggested placement would be on page 86 of the budget bill, subsection M on lines 4 through 6. If the committee desired to increase the appropriation from $1 million currently to whatever item or amount you decide, and we could or could not elaborate on the anticipated purposes. So it would be, for example, an increase from $1 million to $3,650,000 if you elect all of those options. And we could or could not delineate those options in legislation.
All right, Mr. Co-Chair, go ahead.
So, Madam Co-Chair, what I'd like to do is simplify this by quite a bit. The most important thing we need to do is pay for the mock-ups, because those are actually owned by the artist. He's informed us that if we don't pay for them, then they go home. And so that's $250,000. The remaining issues is, I think we now have set aside, Don, correct me, 1.5 million for acoustical work.
You have a total of 2, but I think half of a million has been
Is
expended,
And so
or about that.
I would increase that by $500,000 in order to do it. As I mentioned to this committee earlier, to get the project done at a minimum is going to be at least 1.5 million additional dollars. So the total ask would be for $750,000. That includes the acoustical and the mock-ups.
Clarification, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
You would put in the language, additional language that said of this appropriation, it is for mock-ups and acoustical purposes.
That's correct.
Not the dollar value to them, but we would increase the million to $1,750,000 and then have language for mock-ups and acoustical.
Okay, so Mr. Co-Chairman, for people following the handout, you have modified the items there and the total amount requested.
Yeah, I have struck the bottom,
Just what is the total amount you are requesting in your amendment?
$750,000,
Okay, $750,000, and that's for 2 things.
one time.
One time for the maquettes, and then the second is for the acoustical remedies.
Correct.
Does everyone understand the motion? All right.
All those in
Madam-
favor say aye.
Madam Chair,
Go
Madam
ahead.
Chair.
Go ahead.
So we eliminate the event management, exhibits, landscaping, capital architect contract from that?
Those go out.
Okay, all right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Next.
Next item is on section 319.
Representative.
Mr. Chairman, I can't hear the audio
There
from
isn't
Mr.
any.
Richards.
Representative Larson or Representative Walters. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move, and it would end up being a new section, I think, but move for $18,318,750,000 from the general fund to the state auditor for salary adjustments of generally funded employees whose salary is not prescribed by law for the fiscal period beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending July 30th, 2026.
Second.
Mr. Chairman,
And then there's a larger portion of this amendment that goes on to explain how it would be distributed, but the bottom line is it's 18.3 million.
Go ahead, Representative Stiff.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to amend the motion to state that the money would be spent for purposes of alleviating wage compression for those employees who have worked for the state of Wyoming for more than 5 years and who are currently compensated at less than 100% of market policy position.
Is that a priority? Because if that's not all of the money, then what happens?
I think that would be I think that would be all the money, frankly. But if there's money left over, then as may be directed by the Department of Administration and Information.
Okay, does everyone understand the amendment to the amendment? Any discussion on the amendment to the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could,
Go ahead.
for clarification, and really, I think we can go 2 amendments deep on things, if I remember my parliamentary procedure from years past. I would ask that we say the priority would be that this would be the case, and then beyond it could do whatever. Is that friendly to the bringer?
That is friendly.
Okay, you want to restate amendment to the amendment?
So I think the way the amendment would read is the priority would be for employees that have worked for the state, to alleviate compression issues for employees that have worked for the state more than 5 years and are below 90% of MPP.
Below 100% of MPP.
Below 100% of MPP. And that would be the priority of how they would first go about allocating the funds.
Everyone understand the amendment to the amendment as amended? All those in favor say aye. Those
Aye.
opposed?
No,
That motion carries. Now back on the original motion. Any further discussion on the motion? So,
no, it's on the amendment.
no, that was only on the amendment to the amendment. It was restated. So
Right.
on the underlying amendment, I think there's a
Right.
little further discussion. How much difference or less is this than the governor's rep?
Mr. Chairman, it's my understanding that the governor's ask was for 36 million in just the 1 year starting July 1, 2025. So we're making this effective July 1, 2024, which means that this amount is 25% of what the governor's request would have been, because his request would have biennialized to 72 million.
So this is basically 1/4 of what the governor requested.
Mr. Chairman, that's my understanding.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Can we see a show of hands, please? All those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, was that item number 9?
Yes, it is.
Okay, next on.
Next item, I believe, is control number 10.
Okay, Mr. Representative.
And I
Walters?
think you may have, you've addressed that,
Yeah, I think
yes.
that's done.
Chairman,
You go ahead.
I do have a question, because I had requested our good LSO staff to work on this, and they provided me with a far more extensive amendment than just changing the 4 million to 3.4 as we did earlier in the day, that then breaks out amounts to the LSO and amounts to the executive, the courts and whatnot. Do we need to incorporate all of that additional language to effectuate this,
Don?
Mr. Richards?
I don't think it would hurt. And you're right, you have changed that amount. So for benefit of those viewing and for Polly, the total amount of $3.4 million roughly you approved in that Senate file. We break that out by entity: community college, university, judicial branch, legislative branch, executive branch. And with your direction, we can do so. That helps folks know exactly how much they have in their control.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to break that amount out as described based on the LSO information. And
Any,
again, no new money. It's just a
Everyone ever-
further refinement.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries.
I believe the next item appears on page 135 for enterprise inflation, and I think the amendment is in its entirety. I believe we may have language prepared for this.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
This is for the enterprise inflation, correct?
Yes.
So I would move to modify our enterprise inflation proposal. And what it would do is it would allow for $33,293,115. And that's total funds, of which 28.6 million is the general fund portion for enterprise inflation. And it's the amendment, which is now on the screen, eliminates 3.5 pages in our budget bill and makes this far simpler and easier to understand. So it allows for it to go across the enterprise as needed. And so that's my motion. And then
Second.
with that, I would like to amend the motion, and it says for community colleges, and I would like to remove the community college portion. And if I get a second on that, I'll
Second.
explain. The reason I remove the community college portion of this modification and improved version of our enterprise inflation is we gave the community colleges $16 million in enterprise inflation, or in inflation, as they requested. And so this would be giving them money on top of that. The other entities within the enterprise did not receive any enterprise inflation as directed by the chief executive, that he wanted to do it through his governor's letter, and that's what he did. This amount is about 70% of what was requested.
Is there a new appropriation?
No new appropriation, same dollar value, just a little different way of applying it across the enterprise is all this does.
Question?
Go ahead, Don.
Just a quick clarification. You spoke to the community colleges. Did you speak to UW?
UW will remain in there as. Oh, yeah, yes. So then I would also further move that of this general fund appropriation portion, 4 million of it would be for the University of Wyoming. Again, no new money, just a specification as to how it will go across the enterprise and making sure that the university is covered within the appropriation of the enterprise.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Next.
The last item, I believe, is on control number 4.
So,
Oh,
before we do-
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So control number 37, we won't do that one.
Control number 15, I believe you addressed.
Right.
Control number 22,
Did we do that?
you did not do this. This is the roughly $3.5 million grant between the Wyoming Business Council and the city of Cheyenne. We have the contract of that. They are doing some work,
Yeah.
but it may not be as expeditious as some desire.
So, Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
So was this to allow them to use those BRC funds for infrastructure and some other things? Can you remind me what this was intended to do? I think that this appropriation's taken place, hadn't it?
Go ahead, Don.
Yes, the appropriation has occurred. So this was a competitive grant for housing in this community. And the questions of, you'll recall there were 2 issues. Number one, there was a specific appropriation for military housing that was vetoed by the governor in 2019. This community then competed for a Business Ready Communities grants and was successful for both a grant and a loan. They have expended, I think, around $400,000 for geotechnical work on the parcel. The balance of that grant and loan has not been expended, but has been approved. And
So the question then, Don, is if we direct PRC to make those, to make the funds available immediately, I mean, is that something that we do?
it would be unusual. If our attorneys were here, I think some concerns could be in the area of special legislation. Can you make it applicable only to one grant, which there are dozens out there, that sort of thing?
So I don't think we'll make a motion on that now. If it is, we'll do it from the floor.
And then the last one, number 4, you have addressed number 39. Number 4 is similar to the two that you skipped relating to Agency 38. This is the Wyoming Gaming Commission and how you wish to resolve the staffing and additional study of that agency.
Yeah, and so committee, I've sent a copy of the email from the Director of Gaming Commission that if anyone pulls it up to determine if they want to insert a figure. So and I think that would be the last motion for the day, other than because the bottom one, number 23. Yeah, and so those will be different.
Yes, pursuant to the introductory comments by the co-chair, Nethercott, you have section 3 that has not been raised. I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Which are individual amendments.
That is correct. And there are a very limited number of those.
How many approximately?
I would say less than 6, and I don't know whether members have interest in pursuing them or not. I know of one that I spoke of with the member this morning who is likely to bring their amendment, whether it passes or not. And in addition to that, before you break, I do need to clarify. I know this sheet was circulated, but you can tell there is one individual I should not have included on there.
Should have what?
One individual
Mhm.
I should not have included on there.
Okay.
Apologies.
All right, let's take a short break. We can assimilate the remaining individual amendments, or if there's anything from the Senate, and then we'll be done shortly after that. Okay, we're back. There are 5 or 6 more individual bills to come up. So amendments, I'm sorry. So if you have a list, let's just take them top to bottom and remind us who it is. Some of us who may be on that list.
We'll just ask, does the committee members have any amendments?
We have two. Raise to your consideration in the absence of the member or having difficulty with communications. This was discussed earlier today relative to the FNRPA account on page 6 of the budget. There was interest from a senator as to whether or not to include hunting rights in the potential litigation expenses.
So this, yeah, this is to have dollars available for the litigation. So I'll make that motion to add that language. On the FNRPA account to add back in the language that was removed for the potential litigation if for hunting rights in Wyoming. For a second.
Second.
Don, so that all this would do is add that language back in so that, which is
It was in last year's budget.
right.
The testimony was that the litigation is no longer ripe, is the way I would describe it, and that the Attorney General's office is not intending to pursue that case.
No, and it wouldn't be the AG's office. It would be if a county is sued
Closer to your mic.
or some other person, entity. It just makes it available. So any other discussions on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion carries. Anything else? Don, I do have one, and that's for the, this is for the bollards around the state capitol. That's the black guys that kind of stop the folks from coming in.
The Jersey barrier.
The Jersey barriers. And so we have a quote for $560,000 to replace them and make them more sturdy and also make them removable so that we can move them when we want to. And so that's I would request $560,000 to replace the bollard, the Jersey barriers with bollards.
Mr. Chairman, as a point of clarification, is that $590,000 or $560,000?
Yes. 590. Okay. Moving second. And all those in favor say aye. Those opposed?
No,
That motion carries. Any other amendments?
I have an amendment.
Please, Madam Co-Chair.
Committee members, I move that on page 139 after line 19, this would be in section 328,
139.
page 139 after line 19 in section 328, that there is appropriated $100,000 from the general fund to the state treasurer's office to be distributed to each county clerk in accordance with this section for purposes of obtaining an election consultant or attending training, including professional development training on election administration and security. Distribution shall be made on the effective date of this act in equal amounts, with each county clerk receiving $3,000. From the remainder of the appropriation available for distribution under this section, each county clerk shall receive an amount in the proportion which the population of the county bears to the total state population. For purposes of this distribution, population shall be determined using the 2020 decennial federal census as reported by the Economic Analysis Division within the Department of A&I, as further defined in statute. This appropriation should not be transferred or expended for any other purpose. I'd also add that it be effective immediately. This is based on previous legislation as well, and a request from the county clerks for a need for additional monies for this election training. So $100,000 for the clerks.
Is there moving seconded? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
aye,
That motion carries.
And
In-
just Mr.
Go ahead.
Mr. Co-Chairman, for clarity for the committee's information, this was in last year's Senate File 153. So it's just the same
Okay.
concept.
Okay, any other motions? Go ahead. Amendments from Representative Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a section 300 motion for one additional payment for our retirees. If I can get a second.
Second.
I've sent this out in email and I think staff's able to put it up on display for the folks in the public who may be watching. We came pretty close last time. I'm sure there's still some headwind on this. It's been done before, and Jack, but I'd just like to summarize, if you will. This motion proposes one additional payment on July 1st. I want to stress this is a one-time payment. And the technical language in the amendment relates to that's involved with the funds and making payments. It's a 1%. It's prorated if there's insufficient funds, and it applies to folks who retired prior to July 1, 2023. And the amount of the ask is $7,383,000 from the general fund to the Board of the Retirement System for the purpose of making the payment. The highest inflation in 40 years. And I think the folks could use it. There's a lot of pro and con both ways by all who consider this. I'd ask for your favorable consideration.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Those opposed?
No.
I'm going to have to ask for a show of hands. All those in favor, raise their hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I vote no. That motion fails. Okay, any other motions?
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Swanser.
Thank you, Mr. Hope my mic's on. There it
It
is.
is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to section 206, Department of Education. And I would like to give Girls State 25,000 per year and Boys State 25,000 per year for the advancement of political education.
Move and second for discussion. Go ahead.
So
Ongoing.
Is that a total appropriation of 100,000
100,000 per biennium ongoing.
one time for this
Ongoing?
budget? Or are you making it ongoing?
Ongoing.
Okay, everyone understand the motion? All those in favor? Go ahead. I believe so.
What he said.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No?
No.
Okay, need a show of hands. All those in favor, raise their hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That motion passes. Okay, any other motion amendments?
Tim and I voted for it too.
No. I am a no.
Okay, any other amendments? This might be the perfect time. Okay, Don, anything else?
Mr. Chairman, this is a bit awkward because the member is not present. And I do apologize. I apologize for being emotional. I leaked an amendment of his. I apologize. That being said,
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
the amendment is in Agency 67, the University of Wyoming.
Okay,
And it was related to the carry forward for the porous flow through media. Sorry. Oh, it turned on. Agency 67, it's for the carry forward possibly for the porous flow through media. And I believe it's about 25 million. My notes are scarce, so I believe that's about what was being requested.
so is this for the second half of the first project or the?
Mr. Chairman, this is only to carry over. They are working with their corporate partners at this time, but have concern as to whether or not they can finish all of the legal agreements by June 30th. There is no new money associated with this. And staff would normally not be making motions. This has already been out. So that's why I'm raising it as a potential motion to extend the reversion date on that footnote.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I would move to extend the reversion date on the footnote for the flow through porous media program that's taking place.
Second. Extending it by 1 year of how, or what's the period?
I was to the end of, by 1 year. That'll be totally sufficient.
Okay, everyone understand the motion?
Question? Question?
Representative Swanson.
Just because I couldn't fully hear, could you just repeat it? I don't have a question on it. I just want to make sure I understand what the motion is.
Representative Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the motion is, a year ago, there was $25 million appropriated for this project. And they have and it was to be matched 1-to-1, I believe it was, and they have the corporate sponsors in place. It's all taking place. There is some concern that when you get the university attorneys and the corporate attorneys involved, they may not be able to meet the deadline of June 30th of 2024, at which time those funds would revert. And so this just extends the deadline to make sure that they can finish dotting the i's and crossing the t's. There's no new funding here. It's just, and good possibility it'll occur before we get to that. It's just a precautionary note here.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So Don, could you remind me, is this the first 25 million of that project that we approved maybe 2 or 3 years ago, or is this the second tranche?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Larson, this is the first tranche of $25 million. It was approved in the 2020 budget bill.
Yeah.
And the second tranche is in this budget bill.
In this budget bill. That's what I thought. Very good. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, the motion carries. All right, anything else, Don? Anyone else, committee? Seeing none. Don, I think the next, do we do any summarizations, or the next event, duty is basically a roll call vote on the budget. Is that right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, are we ready for the roll call? Please proceed.
The motion is on 24 LSO 0491, committee formal draft 1.0 as amended. Representative Henderson.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood.
Aye.
Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters.
Aye.
Representative Swanitzer.
Aye.
Senator Anderson.
Aye.
Senator Guru.
Aye.
Senator Kinski.
Excused.
Senator Salazar.
Aye.
Co-Chairman Nethercott.
Aye.
Chairman Nicholas.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the motion is approved.
Okay. Okay, Don, any other business for the day?
No, given just some background here, we will prepare the bill as well as the summary sheets. I know many of you have inquired about the timing on the summary sheets, and we will try to get some of those to you early this week, at least your agencies. The full printed copies for the House and the Senate will in all likelihood be done this weekend. They may be done on Saturday, they may be done on Sunday. They will be done by Monday morning. But
And so,
Yeah.
Don, we present on Thursday and Friday, right?
that's correct, Mr. Chairman. So the schedule is expedited this year such that Thursday and Friday are committee of the whole. Typically, the floors make it through roughly Agency 67, the University of Wyoming on Thursday, and the balance of the agencies and Section 300s on Friday. As co-chairs, you typically are expected to present your assigned agency budgets. But the Section 300s, you might want to think about distributing among members of each of your committees so you can begin preparing the commentary on those.
So, Don, my guess is that after, what we don't want is to have people bugging you until you've got the budget prepared this weekend. But as they prepare, once you have the budget, we're probably, some members may want assistance with you and or staff to help put together their summaries and have them reviewed. So, but I want to just say that you probably won't be available this weekend because you're getting this finalized. Just so people don't hang out at your doorstep.
Yeah, and we have circulated on the House side by a request of the more junior members, the templates that have been used on the House in prior years. Each individual member and each side does this slightly differently. But we will be available to walk you through those activities as well.
Okay. Anything else for
Mr. Co-Chairman, I see Senator Kinsky is back online. He did have to leave. Senator Kinsky, we voted on the bill. With the permission of the committee, would you like to leave a vote?
Well, I.
Thank you.
Would you let him know that we took care of this?
And we will later.
Okay. With that, I wasn't seeing no other business. Thank you very much, everybody. Sorry that it was a long and longer than expected grueling day. The House may recess. You guys got to stay here while we eat lunch. So, all right, we'll stand adjourned.